Just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if they're sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 190. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benesowitz. We are presented by DraftKings. And we had NBA basketball to talk about. Nets and Knicks both in action. Preseason game number 1. Knicks 114-107 winners versus the Boston Celtics at Madison Square Garden. Well, the Nets fall to the Lakers 129-126 in Las Vegas. And excited that in episode 190, there's hoops to react to. Don't forget to watch. If you want to watch this, you can find it on YouTube. Go ahead and see the video version of this. Give it a like. And if you're listening on Apple, I've been saying it, leave a comment. 5 stars. Want to get to 200 for our 200th episode. But good morning, Alex. I know you got to watch the Knicks yesterday, which makes you happy. And good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too. We are so back in New York. Brooklyn and the Knicks are back playing basketball. It's very exciting. We are here, but it's preseason. Knicks played the B squad, and that's got to see some Ben Simmons, and that's getting you guys a little excited. And away we go, man. Away we go, and we're ready to rock.
I like how minimizing you are for Net fans already. Yeah, Nets got to see a little Ben Simmons. So, that's
how excited
nice
could you be? I mean,
excited.
You saw him play well a couple games last year too, and then now it's the same thing. So I as a Knicks fan from afar, I don't know how you can get so excited by Ben Simmons, considering that he shows flashes and then he disappears. So it's just, to me, it's just like, congrats, man.
Yeah, well, I guess the major difference would be he looked a lot better than he did last year. And I think that's the biggest difference is he looked a lot more explosive, a lot more confident. And I understand your perspective of I'm going to shit on it until he does it consistently. And I think for a Net fan, you play 2 things in your head, right? You play, Alex is making a good point. He's got to do it when it counts. He's got to do it when it matters. But at the same time, the narrative has been Ben looks good in practice. Ben looks good in workout videos. I mean, who cares? He does all these workout videos. We see it all the time. Ben looks good in practice. His teammates are saying good things. It's like, okay, well, we've heard this a million times. Well, now it's the next step. Ben looked good in a game. Ben looked confident. Ben looked athletic. So it's less about like, hey, I want to push a narrative along that Ben Simmons is getting better, and more is just in real time on the timeline, seeing what we saw and reacting to it and feeling good as a fan because it's the hope that you have. And seeing one step in this process makes you feel a lot better. It makes you feel excited. I had been on record on this podcast and saying, I don't believe that he's going to be able to do it consistently. And I would say, I still think that. And I would still fear on that. And I also in my head are playing the safe game where I don't want to get my expectations and hopes too high. But when he had an extremely athletic dunk in transition, he had a couple of plays where he went to the rim. He looked fluid. He was moving. I mean, as a Net fan, you got to be, you have to not go crazy in your head and be like, oh, Ben Simmons is back, motherfuckers. But at the same time, what else do you have? You got to feel good in a first step in what you saw from Ben.
Yeah, like I said, as an outsider, I don't get how you can get tricked again. But if you're staying even keeled about it and you're just kind of like, all right, well, you never know, and you kind of like, because he can change your entire season as a Nets fan. But at the same time, can you really count on it? Is he just doing this just so he can make sure he gets his contract and then one little tweak of his back and then he sits down for the rest of the season and wears his weird clothes again? And it's just like, now you're back to this, so. At the end of the day, it's preseason, so, but, I get it, but I don't get how you can be excited as a Nets fan, because it's just like, if anybody is excited, I don't get that. But if you want to be even keeled about it, like you're saying, then, I can wrap my head around that.
Well, how can you not be excited if you're a fan of the team and your best player, if healthy, he is your best player if he is healthy, starts to look really good, I don't understand how you could tell somebody not to be excited. I mean, that's the whole idea of watching your team is seeing your best player who's coming from a bizarre situation where he used to be an elite level player. It's not like we're talking about somebody that's ascending. I mean, he ascended and then descended and now hoping he can ascend again. ADA. That's what we're calling the Ben Simmons era. I need, as a fan, I've seen that he's been a great player, not good, a great player in Philadelphia. Disastrous ending, comes to Brooklyn last year, bad, not good. Had moments of being okay and flashes of it, but for the most part, not good. And to hear him in the post game talk about being excited, it's a body language thing that you could see. You could see his excitement. You could hear his excitement. I cannot blame, and I don't think anybody should be full bandwagon. This guy's going to be all NBA from 14 minutes in the preseason, but not being excited about, not being excited about that. I don't think, how could you not be? I mean, that's what you're here for. That's why you watch these games. I get it if you're excited about it. I am excited about it. I'm just still tempering it, but I'm definitely excited from what I saw. That it was the best possible outcome realistically last night for him.
Right. And that's all you can react to is a little bit. But like, I'm not sitting here and like, oh, Evan Fournier hit a few threes last night for the Knicks.
Different.
And, he's different. Back, so it's just, it is different because the level of player that I know what you're going to say is it was different with Simmons and Fournier when they were at their heights, but at the same time, it's like, it's preseason and you've seen this movie from Ben Simmons before. And I don't know how you can get fooled again. And, it's the same thing for me with Julius Randle, where it's like, okay, well, he looks good. And, he's got a new haircut and, maybe he'll be better this year. And he will. And he'll be good in the regular season. And then playoffs come around or he has those moments and he's not going to be calm, So it's just like, I don't know how you can get tricked again as a Nets fan. But if you want to just stay, like, keep an open mind with him and just be like, hey, I'm not expecting anything, but you never know. And that's fair. But if you're just sitting here, not that you're doing that, but if any Nets fan is sitting there saying like, oh, Ben Simmons is so back, we're going, this is going to be great. Then I got a problem with that. I think
I don't know if any Net
delusional
fan,
if you're doing that,
I don't think any Net fan really went on that track. I don't think anybody is that irrational. I mean, I would say like regular normal fans that are watching this games, obviously there's going to be some people that are going to bug out. But I think if you're watching that, and you're reacting to it, you go, Ben Simmons looked as good as he could have. You're a Net fan. What else can you ask for? Move on to the next one. Continue to do it brick by brick, layer by layer, building the foundation that is Brooklyn Nets basketball, that is the heart and centerpiece of New York City. That's how you got to feel. That's the excitement level that you have, and you have to go forward with it. But I'm not going to poo-poo on him. Like, it's just, it'll be bad again. I have a different mentality, Alex, where this is my team that I've been watching. I have to have hope. I've talked about it on previous episodes. HOPE, Alex, hope with this Nets team. And it all lies on him. And not all lies on him, but a big portion of it does. And I have to be excited from what I saw, temper the expectations to not get myself unraveled. But at the same time, I'm not going to just minimize it like it wasn't nothing.
Well, for me as an outsider, I think it's a bunch of nothing just because of who the guy is. And I just think it's Ben Simmons, like Ben Simmons. And that's probably what most of the NBA is thinking. NBA fans are thinking outside of Brooklyn Nets Nation, if you want to call it that are thinking like, these guys think Ben Simmons is going to be good. That's kind of what's going on in my mind. And I know that, like, again, it's not directed to you because you're not saying that, but it's just, it's funny because the preseason, you're usually excited to see rookies. You're excited to see new acquisitions. And with the Nets, it's like, we're excited to see our player that hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then like quit on the team a couple times and fake some injuries and, didn't even try and quit on the Sixers and, like whatever, we're excited, hey, we saw him, play one game in preseason. He had a breakaway dunk and like, we're excited, just to me that kind of stuff is just it's kind of funny to me, but it is what it is. I understand, from your perspective, you're staying even keeled, and I'm repeating myself. That's fine. But like with the Knicks, it's like, you're excited for rookies and new acquisitions, but with the Knicks, it's like the same team besides DiVincenzo. And it's just like, all right, just stay healthy. You know what I mean? And that's how I'm feeling with the Knicks. And I guess you're feeling the same way with Ben Simmons. And I guess Cam Thomas, you were saying also before the podcast that, he was being showcased a little bit. Maybe they're looking to trade him, or do you think they're going to use him? I
No,
don't know
they're going
what's
to
going
use.
on
I
there.
mean, I think Jacques Vaughn tipped his hand yesterday in a big way because not much is said about him, but the fact that he put him and inserted him in the starting lineup, as little of a thing that might be, he never did that. With Cam Johnson out, he went with Dinwiddie, Simmons, and then Cam Thomas. So he inserted him in the starting lineup, and I think that was a huge deal. I think he tipped his hat on what he's going to do with him this season, that he's going to play minutes, and he's going to get him. He put on 10 pounds of muscle, and a big deal for him is to play defense. And the other part of it was he was in the swing of the rotation with the offense. He took over in the third, but in the first quarter, he was part of the team, which is something you did not really see as much last year. The two buckets that Net fans came into watching yesterday were Ben Simmons, how would he play, and Cam Thomas, how would he play? And they both were the best parts of yesterday's game. I think from a Net fan, that is a big deal. And it's small things to watch for. You haven't seen your team play in months. These are the two biggest question marks for your roster. And the fact that they were both solid on both fronts, you got to feel good. You have to feel good. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm as negative on the Nets as you probably are on the Knicks. I think that would be a fair assessment just in our fandom. I think I'm putting words in your mouth and I can see your eyes moving. So I'm excited for this retort. But I've left yesterday with a little bit of enjoy and a little bit of excitement. And I actually felt good going into the next one. I liked it.
And that's fair. I mean, it is preseason. It's game 1. Give it to preseason game 3, and then you'll be like, all right, when's the regular season starting?
Of course.
We push this forward. But the first one is always exciting because you get to see your boys. You get to see how they all look. Hartenstein has a new tattoo. Everybody's all excited about, seeing, Jacob Toppin catching an alley-oop. Not real excitement, like kind of like, oh, that's cool. We remember we saw Patrick Ewing Jr. play for the Knicks in preseason. He had some crazy baseline dunk. It didn't even make the team. So it's just, things happen like that all the time. And it's just, you get excited and you got to temper it. And as you get older, you realize that preseason means less and less. Every season you watch, you realize it really, really, really means nothing. Evan Fournier is probably going to play 40 minutes a night. Going forward, they're probably showcasing him for a trade, and it is what it is. I mean, the Knicks look crisp, they look good, they looked like they were midseason form, but they're playing the Celtics B squad. There was no Holiday, there was no Tatum, no Brown, no Porzingis. They were playing Peyton Pritchard, and who was really good. He has a really good handle, but the rest of the guys are just a bunch of like backups and stuff, and it's just, of course, they look good. They played together all last year. Now they're playing in the preseason versus backups, and they looked really good. And I just am happy that there was no injuries, and I love that Thibs was trying new things out with the different lineups with Sims and Mitchell Robinson together, and then Sims and Hartenstein together, and that's cool to have the two bigs, as power forward and center, and maybe have a backup 4 with one of those with Sims, and that's cool, and I like that he's experimenting, but I don't know why you couldn't experiment with Randall and Toppin last year. But I know it's old news at this point, but it's just these weird things that Thibs does. It just drives me crazy, and it's just we're going into another season of that. They're going to win 45-ish games, without even with trying. Yes, I shouldn't say without trying, but it's just at the end of the day, it's just there's not much to get excited about the Knicks, because nothing is new. There's only DiVincenzo's new, and nothing has changed. They don't have any exciting rookies. Jacob Toppin, I guess, is the one, but he's going to be in Westchester most of the time, and they have no draft picks. And it's just like, all right, whatever. Kind of let's get the season started already. Stay healthy. The only thing that can happen in the preseason is something can go wrong. And I don't want to be negative, but that's literally the only thing that can come out of this preseason is a negative story. So get through it, get healthy, don't push these guys too much, and let's get to the regular season opening night versus the Celtics, and let's rock. And that's how I feel. And I'm gonna get excited. I really am. I love the Knicks, but it's just that very even keeled feeling I have for me. And
yeah, you're in a different spot. I think if the Nets didn't have Ben Simmons, I'd probably feel more in line of how you're thinking with this Nets preseason. But they do have a wild card in Ben. Every time you bring that mug up, I swear it's a Minnesota Timberwolves mug.
No, it's actually, if you're watching on YouTube, it's actually from Cape Cod.
But can you see that from a quick glance when you bring it up? I'm like,
no, I see what you're saying. Like the middle of the circle is like Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, and just quick.
It's like a, yeah.
And quick glance, I'm not like, studying your mug.
I got the next Minnesota Timberwolves podcast coming up next.
Really?
Yeah,
Talking
yeah.
Wolves.
Yeah, Talking Wolves. No, not even Talking Wolves. It's a Timberwolves Pacers podcast. So like we go back and forth. It's like bad weather fans for the Midwest. So
Timberwolves Pacers. They're not even in the same conference.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Who's your Pacers co-host?
My Pacers co-host is actually my friend Brad. He lives in Indiana.
When do you record this? So you're putting me off.
Mike, I can't record today. I got to do bad weather Midwest fans.
Yeah, right. Bad weather tornadoes. All right. Well, what do you make of I guess with that in front, what do you make of this Karl Anthony Towns stuff?
Oh God, Karl Anthony Towns is just Julius Randle with an inflated contract.
You know who's gonna have a great year, Alex?
Who's that?
Guess who I'm gonna say?
Obi Toppin.
No, not on the Nets or Knicks, and you're gonna hate it.
Or former Nets or Knicks, because Obi's on the Pacers.
Could be a former Net or Knick. I'm not gonna say no to that.
Who's gonna have a good year?
Yeah.
Kevin Durant.
Porzingis.
Come on. He's going to get hurt. It's just what happens.
Well,
I'm not rooting for injury. I'm not rooting for injury when I say that. And he's just going to get hurt.
No, he's injury prone.
And he played a full year last year, but it was on a team like the Wizards who are going nowhere.
Boston's
Once he plays meaningful minutes for a full season, he gets hurt every single year. And it is what it is. It's just a fact. And you can't rely on the guy.
Fourth option in Boston, pretty deep.
Right. But he's not as good of a 3-point shooter as his perception is. It really isn't. Look at the numbers. And he can block some shots, sure, because he's tall. But
his lateral V is not great.
He's not a great rebounder for a 7-footer. Like, you know what I mean? It's just they lost Robert Williams. I mean, that was big, and they got rid of Marcus Smart. That was big. That's their attitude. And they kind of topped with that team. So like I get it. They needed to try something different. But you paid Jaylen Brown the gajillion dollars, which, you didn't have to do. You could have, so Jaylen Brown being the highest paid player in the NBA is kind of a joke, but he's really good. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, are we kidding? So it's just, you get to this point where you have to pay these guys all, super duper maxes when they get the only NBA players and they've gotten to the finals. And I get it. He's their guy, but you're kind of putting a cap on your team that you have to try to go after guys like Porzingis to try to win a championship. And it's kind of laughable to think that Porzingis is going to put you over the top for a championship. Will it hurt if they do win a championship for me in my soul and seeing Porzingis holding a trophy before the Knicks do? Yeah. But at the same time, do I see that happening? No, I don't. I think the Bucks are gonna win in the East, and I don't think it's going to be very difficult for them.
Well, I'd love to defend the Celtics. I mean, I've been thinking about
it's your favorite team too, right?
Everything I've been dreaming of doing this. Yeah. You had mentioned in your argument against Boston that they did kind of reach a ceiling with this roster, and they did not quite get over the hump. So I respect the Celtics for making a change and trying it and keeping the core and keeping Brown, keeping Tatum, and then kind of working around that core to try to get better. And I think that's exactly what they did. It wasn't working in the playoffs with Marcus Smart. They kept failing. They improved at the point guard position immensely. I think Marcus Smart will be a really nice upgrade in Memphis and make sense for what they need and where they are. Where the Celtics are, adding True Holiday alongside Brown and Tatum is a backcourt to front court that's pretty dynamic defensively, offensively, and gives them multitude of options. Of options. Now, Porzingis is the fourth option on the Celtics. If you're telling me he's the one option or the two option, that's a team that's not going to win. If you're telling me he's a 3 option, we're in the conversation. Now, if he's the fourth option, you don't have to rely on him for all the things that he had done in the past. And you have some flexibility in how you want to build your roster offensively. I understand the liabilities defensively. They have Al Horford there, and they'll figure that out as the season continues and goes along. As far as Jaylen Brown being the highest paid player in the NBA, don't get mad at Jaylen Brown and say it's a joke. Get mad at the NBA. It's just the way it works. There's going to be somebody in a year or two that makes more money than Jaylen Brown. And God bless, it's being in the right situation and being a great player in a time where there's a boatload of money going in the league. It's like the conversation people have about the quarterback position. How is that guy the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Because it's fucking October 10th, 2023, and he is the guy in the moment. And I'll tell you, in the year 2024, there'll be somebody that gets paid more money than him. Of course, it's Jaylen Brown, the highest paid player in the NBA based on his talent level. Should he be the number one guy of all time? No, it could probably be Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan played 20 years ago. So it's just the time of where they are. There'll be somebody that makes more money. And if you're the Celtics, what do? Not pay him out of principle because he's not the greatest player of all time? No, you're building a championship roster. You're in your window. The Celtics have a team of Tatum, Brown, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Al Horford. They're going to win some games. They're going to contend with the Bucks. They're going to be a hell of a series in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And, you know, it's all about leverage, really. Like what you're saying is like, look at somebody like Mike Conley Jr. for the Grizzlies when he got a max contract, having 0 All-Stars, and everybody was like, went up in arms. Like, how do you give Mike Conley Jr. a max contract? But at the time, that Grizzlies team needed him. You know, he was the quarterback of that team, and they were good, and they were, you know, winning 40 to 50 games a year and getting into the playoffs every year. And that was big for a small market team after losing Pau Gasol. And, you know, you got Marc Gasol and Zebo, and you know, you needed Mike Conley Jr. I don't know if my years are really matching up with the players I mentioned, but, you know, at that time, like to Memphis, he meant the world to them. And I don't think like outside you can really argue that for the Grizzlies fans and the Grizzlies, you know, nation. I hate that I said nation twice in this episode, but that's what it is. And I just don't know if Jaylen Brown fit that criteria for the Celtics fans. I feel like they more associated themselves with Marcus Smart, even though I know Marcus Smart missed a lot of open shots in the playoffs, and he was a liability on offense down the stretch because they would just focus on Brown and Tatum, and then he would be open, and there's no way he's hitting that shot. Porzingis, if he's not as good as his perception was shooting, he's going to knock down an open three. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you have a better chance of him knocking down an open three than Marcus Smart. I'll put it that way. So I get that, and Drew Holiday also was great defensively and is a great compliment. I just don't see the Celtics being that much better, you know, than the Bucks. You know what I mean? If they're, you know, I just think the Bucks are just going to be so top heavy, and we'll see. That's why they play the games, Mike. The game is not played on paper.
I love the Bucks too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would favor Milwaukee, but I'm not putting. There's a possibility that the Celtics can go in there. I mean, the thing with Milwaukee is Damian Lillard's hurt a lot. Right. There's no guarantees with that. I mean, obviously,
Porzingis.
But Porzingis is the fourth option. Right. Damian Lillard's the second and is the first when it's going to be crunch time, right? Like big time plays, you know, it's going to go to Dame, not going to go to Giannis. You lost
Robert Williams. I mean, Robert Williams might have been a bigger part of the team than Marcus Smart. And, you know, that was their attitude and their boards and their defense. And like Porzingis isn't tough, man. He can get thrown around. And like people forget that. They get excited by these highlights and these flashy plays. And he's not that guy.
You know I think he's the fourth option.
Yeah.
The Celtics needed to make a change. They weren't. We're saying the same thing now, which is
we're going over
to
and
move
over
on. But they had to make the. I respect them for making the swap, just like I respect the Nets for getting rid of and trading away or free agents. Well, trading Joe Harris, Seth Curry leaving, and Patty Mills. I think the one big takeaway from the Nets was their younger bench and just being more athletic and driving to the basket. Last season, nobody could drive to the basket. That felt a little different with some of the new additions for this Nets team. And it wasn't just the same old Nets chucking up through Joe Harris in the corner, Seth Curry in the corner, Patty Mills in the corner. At least it felt like the Nets had a little more juice and a little more life and a little younger feel, which was different to see than opposed to the same kind of aging veteran on the bench. They're definitely younger in that multitude. I don't know if multitude is the right word, but you know what I'm saying.
It's exciting for the Nets because you have a normal team, and you know there's no longer the top guys in the NBA who are going to cause problems and be on ESPN and all this bullshit. You know, you just got a normal team, and the Knicks are just the same team, and we're just going to go into the next year and just hope for health and hope everything works right, and hope other teams like the Celtics or the Bucks aren't as great as we think they are, and hope that teams like the Cavs don't get better, because they're, going into a second season together after not getting thrown together right before training camp last year. And you hope a lot of that stuff works out. And real quick, I just wanted to speak on Israel and stuff like that. I know, it's going to be quick. I know this is the sports podcast, but being a Jewish man and with a Jewish family and Jewish wife and everything. And it's been very tough for me to watch. It's been really hard for me to see. I have family in Israel who are hunkered down and they're scared to death. And like I've had friends who lived in Israel for a long time and that were in the Israeli army and stuff like that. And it's been really hard for me to watch. And please don't justify the kind of violence that was going on, and don't say ceasefire, because if you're saying ceasefire now after what just happened, then you're just like an anti-Semite. And it's just as simple as that. And if somebody came into your house and raped your wife and killed your kids and burnt down your house and said, hey man, okay, truce, yeah, that's not happening. So it's horrible, and I hope innocent people don't get killed on either side. And it's not a problem with the Palestinian people. It's Hamas, a terrorist organization, not a military organization. So that really offensive when they call them that on TV. It's a terrorist organization like the Taliban or ISIS, and I just had to say that. So get that out of the way.
No, don't say get it out of the way.
I'm sorry. Get that out of the way, but I just had to say that while I have a little bit of a platform, I needed to get that out there.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you saying that. I don't want to take it as get that out of the way, because I think it's really important. I don't want you to minimize yourself. And something that's really, it strikes your heart. Yeah, no, it strikes your heart. Rough to see. Just someone that has two children, and you hear these stories,
right.
There's nothing that would be, worse than having your family kind of ripped apart.
Right. I have a Jewish son now, and that scares me. And, my grandmother's from Palestine before it was Israel, and she had to flee because they were killing Jews. And it doesn't start in World War II. And I don't want to get into this. It's not, it's not that kind of podcast. And it's just my opinion. My DMs are always open. I'm willing to talk to whoever wants to have a conversation at Knicks Central on Twitter. So we'll go from there. But either way, so the NBA season is around the corner, and we're getting there, and
I'll transition you here. You ready? It's gonna be interesting in like 20 years from now when let me say this. I'm going to practice at the park on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely trying to get my son to buy in. He's 3 now.
He can get
I took him at a year, and I guess he would have been like 13 months old last time I took him.
It was still COVID-y, right? It was still very COVID-y.
Still COVID-y.
Yeah.
Way too young to be like, understand what's going on. More just watching him walk around and be like, all right, let me see this. Okay. But now at 3, he's a sponge on everything.
Right.
So I'm
asking
definitely
questions.
making it a point to show him this and get him to buy in, because he knows it a little. He recognizes the logo. I'll say to him, like, make him say Nets like he's a parrot. But really gonna get him to buy in, because Alex, I'm scared, because you hear stories of people saying their kid ends up liking a different team, and that would suck. I mean,
because they hate their dad.
If he was a Knicks fan, I would actually support him. I really would, because he's my son.
Team. At the end of the day,
it would suck. But man,
it would hurt you. Yes,
it would suck if I have to be like, shit, we're now watching this rooting against each other. In a few years when he's older, would blow. But I'm really doing my best to infiltrate him and get him to buy in. And it starts Saturday at Brooklyn Nets practice at the park.
Right. The practice at the park, which is the coolest thing in the NBA, of course. They play outside, and of course the Nets are so cool. They play outside by the water, and they take pictures, they get t-shirts, and it's so cool. They're outside. The Knicks might have an open practice in a gym, but of course that's dusty and old, and look at this old franchise, right? Of course,
like
that's
their fans.
Perception. Yeah. That's their perception. No, and that's
Perception's
cool. I mean, like,
reality, you old shit.
You know what it is? I feel like if your son is like doesn't like the team that you like, I feel like you didn't really put it in his brain, because when I was growing up, my dad was a diehard Jets fan. We went to every game together with season tickets. Like, there was no like, hey, I'm going to be a Giants fan. It's just like, before I even knew what the hell I was a Jets fan. I was always just a Jets fan. You know what I mean? Same with the Knicks and the Mets. It was like, I have pictures of myself when I was a little kid wearing a Mets hat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, my mom watched the Mets, may she rest in peace, but just always just watch the Mets nonstop. You know what I mean? So it was always on TV. And this is my mom, and my dad played, semi-pro baseball, and he was into it. And it was just always about the Mets, the Mets, the Mets. And same with the Knicks. It was like the Knicks, the Knicks, the Knicks, always on TV. And it's just like, how can you grow up and be a fan of a different team? It's very, very difficult to do that. I feel like the only way that you can do that is if you have like multiple kids and multiple boys, and they just don't latch on the same way. But like for firstborn son to not be the same fan as, their dad is very difficult when you're diehard like us,
Yeah. The two-part, I think there are kids that rebel against them to pick somebody different, and we'll do that within market. I do think too, it's so different when you and I were growing up, where basically you had only 2 games to watch, right? If you were going to put on the Nets,
right,
or you're going to put on the Knicks. From a local standpoint, now it's such a national game that there's probably kids that like in New York, and I don't think this is far-fetched to say, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Damian Lillard. So they might gravitate towards the player and not the team. I think it's a little different than when you and I were growing up to navigate, making that like this is such a serious topic.
It is a serious topic, man. If my son is not my son Shy is not a Knicks fan, it's going to be very difficult.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or a Jets fan, especially because, Jets are like religion in my family. And it's just like, I can't fathom that. Like I can't fathom growing up with a kid, not being a fan of the same team. I'll still love him and support him and buy him whatever he wants to wear. He wants to be a Dolphins fan. That would really, really kill me. But like, I'm going to buy him a Dolphins t-shirt. This is what he wants. I'm going to support him, whatever he becomes, and whatever he does, I will support him 110% of the way. So Shy, when you're listening to this episode 190 of Bad Weather Fans in 10 years, you'll hear me say that. So I'm sure he's going to listen to this part. Exactly.
Yeah. My son has listened to the podcast, and he has said, "Where is me?" So he is intrigued. He wants to be on. He doesn't understand why he hears me and not him. It's annoying.
Should get him on. Bring him on the show.
Yeah, we can do it right now. Wake him up early. Ruin my morning. I mean that in all loving ways.
No, but it will, because he'll be screaming, and then your wife will be mad at you, and then
also, I gotta edit this thing. More difficult. Screaming kids.
Oh man. Well, the Jets won. That's great, and the Giants lost. The
Giants are terrible.
Giants suck. They've had one good half full season, which is kind of funny. Everybody got on Evan Roberts. So give Evan some credit. He said the Giants are going to win 6 games. He might be over that amount. And everybody hated on him for that, but he was nailed that.
I will say the to me the interesting storyline with the football teams here now was the Jets, because they have a pulse. And they have a huge game versus the Eagles, team they've
never beaten the Eagles, which is insane. Ever.
Well, this would be a good time to do it. This would be a good time to do it. Philly 5-0, but beatable. I definitely think beatable. I wouldn't say it's. I definitely think there's a different tier with like the 49ers right now. But Eagles 5-0, they're winning games. They're annoying. Will be interesting to see how the Jets play against them. Zach Wilson in particular.
He stinks. He's
been better though. He's been better. I'm not. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have
a number 2 pick in the draft. You know what I mean? And we're celebrating him hitting an open slant. You know what I mean?
I agree. He shouldn't be praised as if he is all of a sudden being an all-pro quarterback. But I think he's elevated his play a little bit, which has helped, and has helped the team navigate to get wins where before, like for example, the Patriot game, and now you look at the Patriots, who are
how the fuck did you lose that game?
Right, you could say like they might be worse than the Giants. Those two are the worst. Them and Broncos, whatever, worst teams in football. They lost to the Patriots because Zach Wilson was that inept. I think if you get the version of Zach Wilson you got on Sunday versus Denver, the Jets are capable and will beat the Patriots. That's what I'm saying. There's been that. Not going to say he's been improved so much where you're like, I think we got our franchise quarterback. This is the guy we're going to have for the next 3 to 5 years. No, but I think you have, knock on wood, at least somebody that's not insanely terrible and just more like middle of the pack, below the pack there, and no one's going to really know he plays, and no one plays him in daily fantasy, and one or twice he has a good game and doesn't make terrible mistakes and is more just like a regular bad good quarterback. And I think that's what you have to hold on hope to. Not that he's a star or anything like that.
But if they didn't play the Broncos on Sunday, they lose to any decent team So they lose that game, and I know the refs were awful. Like the Jets haven't gotten a roughing the passer. Zach got hit in the face on one sack early in the game, and they didn't call it. It was right in front of the ref. Like how that's not even more. It can't be more blatant than that. You know what I mean? And then there's a helmet to helmet later in the game on the Jets, a quarterback helmet to helmet. It's just like, come on. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's a joke. But at the end of the day, and the refs did everything they could to help the Broncos, just like they did everything to help the Chiefs. And it's not even like being sour grapes. It's just like these are blatant calls that
pass interference,
out in the open. Pass interference, the holdings in the Chiefs game, the two of them. It's a joke. But Zach Wilson, fine. He's not the 32nd, like the worst quarterback in the NFL, but he might be the 25th now.
Right. That's a big gap, though. I mean, Alex, it's a huge difference.
But that's so pathetic. I mean, it's like I'd rather have seen, especially since they could have had Carson Wentz in here. They could have had somebody in here that can make him the 20th, the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. You know what I mean? Starting quarterback. And it's like, give us a chance. They're not going anywhere. And it just sucks. And it's just like sim the season. And it was fun seeing Breece Hall, and he's a star, like a legitimate star, not like an RJ Barrett star, but he's a legitimate star, Breece Hall. And you know, Garrett Wilson,
played him in daily
superstar, Garrett Wilson. Yeah. But like, it's just, you know, he had some bad throws, man. And he, you know, I don't want to get too far into it.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed. He's the same guy, and he's got a little more confidence, but he's the same guy, and I'm just not. And they're going to get smoked by the Eagles. I thought they'd get smoked by the Chiefs. I thought they'd lose to the Broncos. So I haven't been very positive, but I've never seen them beat the Eagles. I mean, they don't play them every season. It's not like the Knicks have never beaten the Celtics. You know, they played for 100 years. You know what I mean?
The Nets,
it's like
for a good 3 years.
Or the Nets. You know, it's
the good old days.
They play once every 4 years, maybe once every 3-4 years. You know, depending on the schedule, how the schedule shakes up in the NFL is weird, but. They're not beating the Eagles, because if they're going to make those mistakes, the Eagles are going to take advantage of it. And you know, before the half with Zach Wilson not being able to get a playoff and losing a chance to kick a field goal, like you can't lose those chances against good teams. You're going to lose every time.
Oh, that was the worst. That was such a bad moment where they could not clock it in time. Bad coaching, bad quarterback play, and they lost 3 points.
Right. You got to throw it away.
Rough. See,
give up the 7-yard pass, throw it away.
I think it was Garrett Wilson. It was at the top of the screen, and he was. It was Wilson. He was pissed.
Of course, like he hates Zach Wilson.
You could just see him in the moment, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, spike the fucking football. And you could see it just come out of his, the emotion just spew out in that spot.
In basketball perspectives, imagine you are joining, you're in your second season and you're supposed to play with Kevin Durant. And it's supposed to be Kevin Durant is supposed to be the guy. And then he tears his Achilles, and now your sidekick is like, let's think of a player. Somebody, your sidekick is now Evan Fournier. Instead, and it's just
different sport.
It's a different sport, but I'm just trying to give levels here. How you went from the top of the top with Aaron Rodgers to like now you got some guy who's a bust like James Wiseman. Now you're or Marvin Bagley Jr. Like those guys, or the third. What is he? The third or the junior? I don't know. But either way, one of those guys. And now it's like you're a star and you're just wasting an entire season because your team is not going anywhere now. And you thought you were going somewhere the whole offseason.
Well, I think the momentum of playing well in the second half versus the Chiefs, getting a win on the road versus the Broncos, it sets itself up for this is, I think, a very pivotal game in which direction the Jets season goes.
Well, we have a few more weeks of relevance. It bought us another 2-3 weeks.
You did. Bro, the Giants, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's completely
over. And it's depressing. I mean, it's sad. It's like the offensive line is disgusting. Daniel Jones has regressed, but then at the same time, the line's been so bad and injured that you can't fully address it. Like, for example, they draft Caleb Williams. You're going to put him out here as a rookie in front of that? No, because you might destroy his confidence. You would never do it because of how putrid it's been. So which is why the Nets are here to save New York. I mean, it really is. They are here to come in and save New York, get some relevant sports here, some basketball back in town. And, we'll see how the season goes. But
let me ask you a question.
Away,
what do you think the first game that Knicks fans dance in the streets? First game.
The win over the Celtics.
Opening night versus Celtics, you think?
Yeah. And
if they win.
I'll say this, Alex. I was not upset that the Knicks won last night. It didn't bother me.
Good. So that's growth. That shows growth.
Preseason game.
Dude, did you see the Wemby highlights? Whoo! Boy, he
he
looks
looked
a
good.
lot better than he did in the summer league. He's gonna be like, I know I'm not breaking any ground here, but like everybody was questioning him, like because he looked a little awkward and slow in the summer league, but it's his first game ever on this soil, and
Fun.
like this is like I was like, whoa, he had some up and unders versus playing against Chet. I'm
Watch the
excited to
Ben
see him.
highlights. Watch the Ben highlights.
You
look good.
I've seen those before. I'm just
not like that.
it's not
Nothing
exciting.
like this, Alex. You've never. This was Philly Ben, bud. Like I'm gonna.
I saw him play well against Philly last year, though. Ben Simmons, he had some nice tap down the court. He was aggressive, and then he disappeared.
God, I hope he's good. He needs to be great. He needs to be great for all of us, for all of our net, for the net,
for the bad weather fans,
for the net nation.
Nation.
He has got to be great
for bad weather fans. Nation. We
good
are
for the podcast, man.
Of domination. Yes.
All right, bad weather fans, episode 190. Crazy. Woo. Thank you to DraftKings. Always appreciate your support for this podcast. Rate, review, download, watch on YouTube. All the good stuff as we gear up for the season, man. 2 weeks away. Nets, Knicks, I believe both on October 25th. Nets and Cavs. And Celtics. Nets do have the Cavs to start the season, I think.
You're such a bad fan, Mike. You're not a real Nets fan. Okay. See,
they do. See the Nets. Next Nets preseason game, Monday the 16th versus the 76ers.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And this might be the first episode, which I'm going to ruin. I'm going to keep the streak alive that we didn't mention Coonies. So we're going to mention Coonies at the end of the episode. We've always mentioned him somehow in the show. So here we're mentioning Coonies again. One of our good listeners. One of our co-hosts that filled in for me.
I mentioned him earlier.
Did you? I don't think so.
No, I didn't.
No, you thought about him. He's on your mind all the time. So
he is a lot.
Download. If you really want to help us, download these episodes on the podcast apps.
All right. This has been Bad Weather Fans, Ep 190. Alex, be good, my man.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.